Shalom. El praise to Yahweh Shem Yeshua Bashem Rakakadash. Double Lord to the apostles and elders of great most honorable one. Shalom. To all the brothers and works of certain truth. Got this article on Wall Street Journal. This is what the tiny satellites that will connect cows, cars, and shipping containers to the internet. Intriguing. So it says, scientists who track the health of Adelie penguins on the ice-covered wastes of Antarctica are managing their cameras from thousands of miles away via tiny satellites orbiting above our heads. Energy companies are exploring using the same technology for monitoring hard-to-reach wind farms, logistics companies for tracking shipping containers, and agribusiness companies for mining cattle. It even helped National Geographic track a discarded plastic bottle from Bangladesh to the Indian Ocean. In the near future, it isn't unreasonable to imagine this evolving satellite technology could put a distress beacon in every automobile, allow remote monitoring of wildlife in any environment on Earth, and track your Amazon shipment not just when it's on a truck, but backwards, all the way to the factory that produced it, and it could be done at a fraction of a cost. Of earlier satellite tracking systems. These novel networks of nanosats, aka CubeSats, are a result of a number of factors. First, the satellites themselves are smaller, cheaper, and more capable than ever. The smartphone industry is miniaturized all electronics, benefiting everything from cars to drones. Then there are falling launch costs due to companies like SpaceX, active national space programs like India's, an array of new launch technologies from reusable boosters to 3D printed engines. Yeah, so basically, this technology, like it said in in the title, it's about that Internet of Things, man. It's about having everything linked up, and basically being able to track it, being able to ping those signals. That's the word I'm going to ping those signals around. So it says says it's just as important. There's the rollout and adoption of new long distance, low power wireless communication standards that can work just as well in outer space as they do on the ground. Like so many innovations in the early days, from the internet to the smartphone, no one is quite sure what low-cost, low-power data relays from space will enable, or whether there will be enough demand to sustain the many companies jostling to provide it. In the next year, hundreds of satellites from more than a dozen companies are set to launch. These startups aren't going head to head with more expensive and ambitious efforts from the likes of Amazon and SpaceX, which aim to deliver high-speed internet to households and businesses. These mega constellations of hundreds or even thousands of relatively large satellites cost billions of dollars. Networks networks of up to 100 nanosats can cost in the tens of millions, says the operator. So yes, it's exceptionally cheaper and more flexible as well because there's more of them. So it's linking all these things up and tracking and keeping track of them all. So it says that okay. It says the truly global Internet of Things, these tiny satellites can truly global Internet of Things. These tiny satellites can enable would have been much more difficult to achieve even 24 months ago. Says Alistair Davies, director of the Aryabhata initiative, which designs and builds satellite tracking and connectivity systems for researchers, including the penguin watching ones. For the Penguin project, Mr. Davies created low-cost cameras that can withstand harsh Antarctic conditions, while the images they grab are stored in SD cards and must be physically collected once a year. The cameras can repeat their status, low battery, no, report their status, low battery, covered in ice, tipped over, etc., to their keepers in London via tiny satellites. So yeah, it's you've got this whole network of micro satellites, very small satellites that are basically shooting information around on a level like globally, on a kind of scale in which people haven't really seen before. And these systems are being introduced because it's about that mark, man. Because it's the first thing it says, that will connect into the internet, and then that's after. Yeah, it says what the truly global Internet of Things. So it's about setting up for that Internet of Things system where everything's connected, man. And that's why it's what's it called? Satellites, man. Because about tracking people all over the earth. And that's how Esau wants to get down, man. These all these systems are being introduced, and it's just that's why one of the key features of this article is what, but the penguins, blah blah blah. But then it's a thing where it's like if you can connect to cameras, then it can connect to phone cameras, connect to anything. And these are things that the elites want to do. Remember from The Dark Knight, when Bruce Wayne basically sets up radar from not the glasses, what was it? It was from phones. People's mobile phones would basically give off like a sonar, and then it would kind of give the layout physically of what you can kind of see. It would give the layout of what you can see. Jesus. Please slip my mind. Yeah, no, I've completely lost that train of thought. So well, yeah, it's men are highlighting about the penguin watching, but this is a thing where it goes way beyond that single application. That's something they accepted from the beginning, because it says about that Internet of Things basically linking up the image, the image of Yeah, collect. It's this Internet of Things linking up to the satellites, and the thing they're homing on is these cameras. Keeping a track on the harsh environment like the Antarctic, where man can't just be out there. But that application applies universally, man. You go to I remember even from what the fuck 2001, 2002, man. Like Metal Gear Solid 2, they kind of had drones with cameras, man. They called them ciphers, which I think are actually the military actually has cipher units, which is like drones with cameras equipped, and that's something these all this kind of surveillance. This is something which, especially in London, in London, the surveillance angle has been pushed heavier than like in the States. The States has like a wider scale, so the infrastructure is not as much there. But it's like in the UK, they've kind of developed it to the point where it's like you kind of expect anywhere you go, you're going to anywhere you go, you're gonna run into people that might run into cameras that are gonna be watching. So this is basically building upon that, and where it's a thing where these you can have satellites, micro satellites, where it will just be, and it's somewhere remote, like fucking who the fuck, like they said, they mentioned big satellites cost what, billions. Oh wait, yeah, yeah, relatively large satellites cost billions, but the smaller ones cost tens of millions. So it's much more affordable on a different scale, and then they'll basically be able to push out much more of that. And those things would be applied. There would essentially be these tools would be used for what? For the elites, for that control, man. So basically keeping tabs on the populace. this is this is the hellscape that Esau envisions, man, for his kingdom and his kingdom that he wants. So yeah, it says, while the images they grab are stored in SD cards and must be physically collected once a year, the cameras can report their status, low battery covered in ice, tipped over, etc., to their keepers in London via tiny satellites. Lacuna Space is a small Harwell, UK-based startup with 3 communication satellites in orbit and 2 more on the way. 2 are about the size of a briefcase, the third as big as a shoebox. While nearly all nano satellite constellation startups, Lacuna Space. Okay, like nearly all nanosatellite constellation startups, Lacuna Space needs to deploy dozens more satellites to cover the entire Earth at all times. Presently, many customers testing the company's technology can only connect to the satellite 2 to 4 times a day. But for applications like monitoring remote infrastructure, such as penguin cameras, that's often enough, says Rob Spurnett, Lacuna Space's chief executive and founder. And this is the private sector, and this is something that you have to consider. Like the military is gonna have had plans and schemes for these things for the longest. And this thing's about what do you call it? For the elites, for that police state, that total control, where it's something like microsatellites, where essentially you're able to, beam information from all over. And these men are all thinking about you're gonna be in the absolute mist and depths of the Amazon rainforest, and they're still gonna be able to fucking get you put down, man. And how the military grade of things, military level of technology is different, and people don't really know like what it's not public knowledge. Because why? You consider the thing that happened in Iran, man, with a guy that got wigged Man fucking had a satellite controlled robot where they lengthened the man's car up, and there was someone in the passenger seat that didn't get hit. So it's like Esau's got them terrible means of coming against brothers, and these are the things that Esau's constantly trying to develop, so that he can get into that role, that total control kind of role, and that's what the elites savor and desire. So it says Lacuna Space's satellites connect to things on the ground using LoRaWAN networks already used by Earthbound devices sold by Amazon and others. Netherlands-based Smart Packs also says uses LoRaWAN to connect rhinos and elephants into a sort of internet of megafauna. Yeah, so they're normalizing as well that internet of things kind of mentality, where you just go and everything's all connected, and that all this information's passing between each other, and that's the mark slips into that easy. It says this is used for managers of wildlife refuges who need to monitor their animals to prevent poaching and bring them back when they wander beyond park boundaries. An elephant collar smart parks is testing in Malawi, connects with LoRaWAN ground stations there, but can also connect to Lacuna Space's satellites. It says Smart Parks co-founder Tim Van Dam. Once the constellation is fully deployed, his company will use it to track animals into places, deserts, forests, and trans-border parks between countries. So, these things are basically being developed for like observation, for keeping track of things, which that's how it links up to the mark, man. That's that whole Internet of Things, because a lot of this kind of just going everywhere. It's even with I think I mentioned it before, with when you activate on your phone location services, they'll ask for access to location service. They'll ask for access to Wi-Fi, because when you connect to like different Wi-Fi network, well, you don't even need to connect. You just having your Wi-Fi on, it'll basically be like, okay, so you're trying to access this network. Like if a network's in range, then it can kind of give that location information, to your phone, and then more accurately pinpoint where it might say, okay, you're on this road. So, okay, you're on number 52 and you're on number 55 or whatever. Like, it can kind of lock these things down like that. And that's what Esau systems, these things are being created for, man. Esau's great. The man said micro satellites. That's something I ain't even really heard of before. But that's how that's how Esau's rolling. He's essentially trying to set up for that system in which tracking, controlling, basically keeping tabs on people. These things are able to be observed. They ain't gonna have to have a man standing in your room ready to bash your head over. They can kind of have probably like moving, like a drone or something that would be flying around, and then just jack into it and all, set all layer things on top of it. And that's, no, that's what people ain't ready for, man. Ezekiel 28, from 2, it says, Son of man, say unto the prince of Tyrus, thus saith the Most High Power, because thine heart is lifted up, and thou hast said, I am a God, I sit in the seat of God, in the midst of the seas, yet thou art a man and not a God, though thou set thine heart as the heart of the Most High. Man. So, with Esau, what he's trying to do, he's trying to emulate things that Yahweh Hashem Yahushua has, man. Because the Lord's got his angels going around, keeping records, keeping track of what's going down. But Esau's trying to attain it on the carnal sense, man. That's why he's setting up these satellites. So he's setting up this Internet of Things where it's basically all this information is just going to fly about and, be able to keep and track people down, man. And then influence them however you need be, man. Because that's like, once you get a mark, it's, you start, if you're rebelling against, against the society, and then they can then be like, okay, cool, we're gonna lock you off, man. This is what, behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that they can hide from thee. With thy wisdom and with thine understanding, thou hast gotten thee riches and hast gotten gold and silver into thy treasures. Yeah, Esau's got rich. He's basically been able to have dominance and rule over the earth. And this guy is so carnal. He's trying to carnally cement that in basically permanently. But it's not. That's not a thing that can be done, mate. I don't think you understand quite how this works. And it's gone gold and silver into thy treasures, by thy great wisdom and by thy traffic hast thou increased thy riches, and thine heart is lifted up because of thy riches. Yeah, Esau's, swelled up with pride, and that's you trying to do the thing where you putting up microsatellites, building up networks that where you can basically track in and build Internet of Things around people, where you're looking to slip the mark in to cement that. That's you are hella increased in pride, man. Man's thinking he's gonna outdo the Most High at what he does. So this is what therefore thus saith the Lord God, because thou hast set thine heart as a heart of God. Behold, therefore I will bring strangers upon thee, the terrible of the nations, and they shall draw their swords against the beauty of thy wisdom, and shall defile thy brightness. They shall bring thee down to the pit, and thou shalt die the deaths of them that are slain in the midst of the seas. Yeah, so despite Esau's, all these attempts, all these efforts he's putting in, it's only gonna result in what? All that coming to waste, man, coming to destruction, coming to an end. Because that's Esau's role, man. That's what he's got to do. All this that he's trying to do, he's doing it in vain, but it's through the Spirit. He's basically trying to cement that new world order, man. He's gonna bring in that mark, and the majority of people are gonna take and eat that. And those that do, those among Jacob, they're gonna taste that lake of fire, man. And it's gonna be terrible unto them, man. But yeah, these things, I saw this, I was just like, microsatellites. I'm like, bro, that don't even sound right. And I said linking up cows, cars, shipping it. It's basically, building up that where everything's tracked and traced, and they know where it is. They can be like, okay, yeah, where is it? Then they got live feedback. That's, Esau trying to have that control, trying to be like the Most High, essentially, man. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Shalom. Shalom.